right, everybody. Thank you for joining the Pristine Connections podcast. I am Ashley Furr. I am here with Levi Perry with Facilitate, your one-stop source for post-storm solutions. They focus on auto dent repair. So, Levi, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
So before I dive into all the fun technical questions about your business, tell us a little bit about your family.
Oh, well, I got a lot of family. So do you want to get more into specific about my immediate family?
Let's talk about where you're from. I know you're not technically from Texas.
Right. Well, we're Texan now, but we are originally born and raised in Alaska. And so when I met my wife, she'd already been in 3 national aviation magazines, float plane rating, multi-engine rating, and that was at the age of 17. So that explains a little bit about Alaska culture.
Yeah.
That's it. So we're both born and raised up there. I'm the son of a founding Iditarod musher, so my dad actually helped get that going. For those who are aware of that, it's kind of a cool claim to fame.
Yeah.
And I can say I'm a real Alaskan, not just a transplant.
Yeah. How amazing is that? And I know you have a couple of kiddos and one on the way, which I know y'all are excited about.
Kids are the best.
So what made you guys move to Texas from Alaska?
Climate's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, climate is a huge one. We definitely love the warmth versus the cold. I mean, we've been enjoying 70-degree temperatures here, and everybody back home is still buried in 3 feet of snow. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So nice to get up for a little bit around the holidays, and the summers are beautiful because you can go hiking at 2 a.m. It's light all day and all night in the summer. Winter's obviously the opposite. So
yeah, interesting.
It gets
old. Does that not mess up y'all's sleep cycles?
When you're born and raised up there, I don't think so.
Okay.
For folks, there's a big military community up there. And so folks who come up with the military are like, oh my gosh, what is this? And they all need blackout shades in the summer. And in the winter, they need happy lights, UEV emitting lights. So just to help with the seasonal depression.
Yeah, yes, I'm very curious about that. I had a really good friend in college who got stationed in the Marines in Alaska, and I thought he was joking with me because, to be completely honest with you, I did not know that it got dark and then stayed dark for a long time. And he would tell me about that, and I'm like, "You're joking." And he's like, "Oh no, it's pitch black right now." And I'm like, "Interesting," especially when you're used to Texas and all the seasons we get, for sure. So you network a lot. Obviously, I know you from a few networking groups. Obviously, Pristine Connections as well. So, what other networking groups are you part of?
Oh, we ain't got time for that.
Okay. It's a long list.
I think that's a big thing with building a company. And again, being here, having moved here in 2021, we knew one couple, retired educators that live over in Denton, and they're amazing friends of ours. But when we moved here, we didn't know anybody. We didn't know what we were going to do for work. We didn't know where we were going to live. We just knew, hey, we needed to get out because we left Alaska, lived in the Seattle market for a few years. And we just had a conversation across the table like this one day. And we said, you know what? Why are we here? We don't really want to be here. We just kind of defaulted here because it's the next closest place to Alaska.
Right.
And so when we settled on Texas, they said, hey, get down here. And we felt more at home in the first 6 months here in Texas than we did almost 6 years in Seattle. And it's been phenomenal. Networking has been the biggest thing for us in getting settled here and really building and growing a company. That's important, right? To have a thriving network.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. No, that's great. I mean, so tell us, what got you into this line of work in the first place?
Yeah, well, from Alaska, and we'll take a step back. I've been working since I was 12 years old, and coming from Alaska, very blue collar, right? So as I grew and progressed, and my endeavor was to work more from the neck down than from transition from working from the neck down into working from the neck up, right? And so the niche I kind of found myself, found a good fit was white collar roles in blue collar industries, right? Because a lot of blue collar industries, they don't have the professionalism, the communication that really could take them to the next level. Right. And so that's where a lot of businesses struggle. And that's where I kind of bridge that gap because I can speak both sides.
Right.
Right. And so coming from Alaska, I always say the ice from the sky is a lot softer up there. Right. We knew it hailed here.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it hailed this much.
Yeah.
And so, again, having moved here when we did, and my wife was 34 and a half weeks pregnant, I'm the sole breadwinner for our soon-to-be wife and 3 kids. And I didn't want to do the corporate job thing. I left the corporate job in Seattle moved here, and as I got introduced and acclimated to the environment of the market here, I realized very quickly within a matter of months, there is a major gap in this industry. And so the end consumer gets left out in the cold. That wasn't an Alaskan pun or anything like that, but they get left out and there's no education and they're just left to fend for themselves. And so that's what I'm really excited about with what I'm doing.
That's really great. What are some of the challenges that you've faced starting this?
Starting a business is the challenge. It's just everything is a challenge. And it's not that any one thing is inherently difficult, right? And that's why you've got so many folks who never start a business, and why you've got so many serial entrepreneurs who are on their 18th business and looking to start another one. It's because once you do it, once you figure out, hey, how do I form an LLC? What are the taxes like? Trademarking, business strategy and product differentiation. Once you've done that once or twice, it's pretty easy, right, to duplicate. But it's doing that first time that is a challenge, right?
Sure.
So,
what about some of the excitements?
Everything's exciting, right?
Everything's exciting and challenging.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say when I got into this world, it wasn't that, oh my gosh, I am just so passionate about pushing dents out of people's cars. It's just, I saw an opportunity to serve people. That's a smart business model. I guess the truth will be told as we go down the line, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a way that you can do something that's creative and new. That's what's exciting. I have unique, exciting situations all the time. I got a call the other day after the storm last week. Guy had just pulled into his driveway with his brand new truck, was there for about 20 minutes clearing spot out of his garage, and got hit with about $6,000 worth of hail damage.
Oh my God.
And so, you get situations like that you got to help people with. You got people who are on their way to the enterprise facility to pick up their rental car to bring their car to the shop, and they get T-boned in an intersection by a 16-year-old girl learning how to drive.
Right.
And so there's a lot of situations like that, and I don't care, even if you've got the best agent on the planet, after a severe storm and a catastrophe, that's their one opportunity to add a lot of benefit to their book of business, because that's the only time that the insurance company actually gets to help them. Right. They're just paying premium every month, right? And so even if you have the best one, though, they don't have the capacity to service their clients and really hold their hand and walk them through every step of the process.
Right.
And so that's where I get to come in, and that's what I love.
That's really great. Tell us about the technique, too, because I know it's very different than like a standard dent repair company. Because I've seen your presentations before, and so talk to us about that.
So I don't do any of the pushing myself. So it is magic to me as well. But having been around it, I mean, to put it simply, you're massaging the dents out from behind the panels. And there's a few different aspects to that, but we don't need to get too into the weeds. If anybody wants to, I'm always willing to, but we don't got time for that right now.
That's okay.
And obviously it would help with visual presentation. But the reason why paintless dent repair is so effective is because if you can massage the dents out of an existing panel and not have to do any sort of traditional new parts or paint or Bondo, that's going to help maintain the overall look and value of your vehicle, because you're going to have all matching VIN numbers. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about matching maybe 6-year-old tricolor paint on a silver Lexus, and then you're going to look at it in the light and hey, the bumper looks different than the fender, and it's actually ends up being a lot less expensive than buying new parts, ripping old ones off, putting new ones on. So
sure,
it's when possible, if it's not too beat up, it's by far the best solution.
Yeah,
and it's so prevalent.
For sure. And you're a lot of, referral based primarily, but I know I'm sure lean on insurance companies too if the claim's filed, right?
Well, and I know we have some mutual connections with an insurance company here locally that I'm going to be actually meeting with their team tomorrow.
Nice.
And giving some education, answering questions, how they can serve their clients better. And then when their clients do have questions that they don't know the answer to, where I can help out, right? And so it helps them look good, and I'm a free resource to all of their clients. So I do a lot of business that way. all of my business is through referrals. I do zero door knocking. So after a storm last week, you've got I go out to appointments, and you've got all these door knockers out going around. And that's it's nice to be a different interaction with somebody, right? Because nobody wants to have 16 door knockers by 9 a.m. the day after a storm.
For sure.
Right.
And I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
Right. So what happens is after a storm hits, have you ever been through a hailstorm with your car? Okay.
So thankfully, well, yes, but it was too small and too quick to even do any damage.
Cool. So what happens is you're like, okay, what are my options? I'm either going to talk to 1-800-CLAIMS department. Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump on the Google machine, or I'm going to wait for the door knockers to come around. Although actually probably 6 of them have already been to the house by that point, right? So okay, if you look at those, the issue that I have with those is the insurance companies, of course, they're a for-profit entity. They want to take care of their policyholders, but they want to do it with as little money as possible. Mm-hmm. And so what you have happen is they'll shuffle people to big box stores, typically like a Caliber Collision, a Service King, and we can edit that out if I'm not supposed to say names. But but the issue that I have there is those folks typically will hire in some unemployed technician off the street or from another state to come in and work for them. They'll pay them 40% of the industry average, and then you're supposed to expect them to do just as good of a job as somebody who's down the street, who's local, who's been pushing hail dents out for 20 years at his local shop.
Yeah.
Right? And then, not to mention, they're going to report all that damage to your Carfax, even though it's not legally required. So when you go to sell that vehicle three years down the line, you're going to have $7,000 as a big red flag in hail damage on your vehicle history. So that's an issue that I don't like with big box stores. The Google side is, am I talking too much?
No,
okay.
no, this is good information.
So if you jump on Google, you can say, hey, this shop, it's down the road from my house. They've got 5-star reviews. Well, awesome. But how do you verify the quality of those 5-star reviews? Are they legit? Or are they did they pay somebody to put those on there? And even if they are legit, which, most of them are, the thing is, you don't know if when they got that 5-star review 6 months ago, if the talent that got them that review is even still there. Have they left to a competitor? Has the business sold?
Yeah.
Right? So how do you actually verify that? You don't have anybody with eyes and ears inside the facility who knows, hey, maybe they do good work, but their communication sucks.
For sure.
Right? And so the other option is obviously waiting for the door knockers to come around.
Yeah.
And, some of those guys are great. Some of them are not. Again, how do you vet it out? And, what I've seen happen, I'll go to check on a client's car at a shop, and there will be a sales guy that I'll run into, and I'm like, man, why this car is terrible. He's like, yeah, man, this thing's going to total, but you know what? We're going to be able to charge the insurance company storage fees, for having it on our lot. And I'm like, well, have you talked to the customer at all? Because if you don't talk to Mrs. Jones and figure out what her coverages are, does she owe money on the vehicle? What's the situation? Well, then Mrs. Jones could quickly find out that, hey, she was sold this grand idea of repairing her vehicle by this salesperson, only to find out that, hey, insurance is going to total her car, and she's going to owe the difference to her lien holder on top of that and have no car left. And so that's the stuff that I'm trying to combat and help with, and where I'm very excited because I get to work as a broker. I've built a network of pre-vetted facilities across the metro that, depending on your unique insurance coverages and the types of repairs that are required, we can select where it makes the best sense for you in your unique situation.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Y'all just need to call Levi if you were affected by last week. Personally, I was hoping we would get hail so my car could be totaled. Just saying, because I want a new one. That's horrible. So you talked a little bit about the metro area, so service areas. I mean, are you all DFW? Do you like to stay North Texas?
I'd say because we live here in North Texas, that's where most of my network is built so far. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm actually actively in the process of vetting out a facility in Fort Worth, and that owner also has facilities in Denver and Minneapolis. Oh. And so with what I do on the educational front, a lot of times if I know the type of damage that's in an area and I have a customer who's willing to work with me, and we're able to have good communication back and forth, I know the types of damages and repairs that are required in an area, I don't physically have to be in person most of the time, or I can get somebody to take a look at it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of service area, right now, my main focus is the Metroplex. But if somebody has a need outside of that, I am more than happy to help, because it's an excuse for me to branch out into a new area.
Sure. Absolutely. What can you share just from your, professional journey, really, that could help, the next generation of entrepreneurs, especially those that might want to get into this industry? Like you said, there's really no education on it.
Right. Well, I don't know how much professionalism there is either. I try my best, but I'd say, just for me, really it comes down like experience. I grew up, I always say, in the woods of Alaska. I was relatively close to civilized Alaska, which is, city of Anchorage, 250,000 people. That's our big city.
Though. McKinney used to be that years ago.
But that's our one big city, right? So, and on top of that, though, I was homeschooled all the way through. And so I had a lot of overcoming in order to get to the point of being outgoing, but also not weird, right? And that's a fine line there sometimes, right? So, but in terms of professionalism and what I'm doing as a company, I think it's just a matter of, again, there's a lot of good people and a lot of not so good people in every industry, right? And so if somebody wanted to get into doing what I'm doing is completely unique from everything I've encountered. I think there's a lot of potential and, again, a lot of need. So if folks were to focus on taking their eyes off themselves, put them on the client, and make sure that the client is equipped and knowledgeable about what's going on with them and makes the best sense for their current situation. I had a customer this morning. I saw 3 cars through referrals just this morning. One of them, I said, hey, this is pretty light. Like, normally with hail damage on a car, it's different than a roof. If you have bad hail damage on a roof, obviously if it's leaking, like, you got to get it fixed. If it's not bad, to put it off for a few months through the worst of storm season might be worth it, so you're not ending up paying multiple deductibles.
Yep.
For a car, it's a little bit different situation. If you've got dents on your surface and then you wait and it hails on it again, instead of being a nice clean dent that you can push out, then you've got this weird misshapen thing. Maybe the paint is cracked, and if your paint cracks on your roof, then you got to repaint the entire roof and blend it with the other panels around it. So, now I lost my train of thought where I was going with that, but
it's all education.
it is. It's where I was going with that was I said, taking the time to understand the customer's needs. Yeah. So when I talked to the client, I was inclined to just say, hey, buddy, this damage is actually really, really light, where if you did want to wait a little bit, it might make more sense, and here's why. And then I said, but are you by chance planning on selling or trading in the vehicle anytime soon? He said, well, actually, it's a lease, and we're looking to get rid of it in the next few months because we're coming up to our mile limit. So then we were able to talk through, and I said, okay, well, in that case, we probably want to get things moving now. So, and here's what we need. You got, and help him set up the enterprise and walk him through all of that stuff. But if I had just assumed, and that's something that it's such a small amount, I'm not even going to make any money on fixing that. But I'm going to help walk him through the process and take care of him. And obviously those types of things pay dividends down the line. Absolutely. So that would be my advice to future people in this industry.
Yeah, just really help people walk through the steps. There's so much that happens here, especially during storm season. And there's a lot of door knockers, people that just want your business or maybe want to earn a buck and don't really care about your best interests. So, which obviously insurance is high for a lot of these storms that have come through.
Well, and it's going to keep going up. It's just how it is.
It's just part of it.
Whether you file a claim or not, in the state of Texas, as I understand it, and don't quote me on legal stuff, but as I understand it, in the state of Texas, legally, you cannot raise rates for filing an act of God claim. They're going to see blanket increases across the market where they're seeing hail. Yep. But whether you were parked in the garage or you were parked out in the front yard and got hit, you're going to see those rate increases.
Yes, I just did. Let's talk about routine. I'm sure you might have a daily routine, but what helps you be the most productive?
Yeah, and again, as a budding entrepreneur and father of 2.5, and it is a challenge, right? Because it's in it, you can never have the balance, but you've got to make sure that you are present for the times that are important on each side, right? And so either one can easily bleed into the other. In terms of structure, my business has a very high degree of seasonality, right? So right now we are in peak storm season, it's going to be busy. But 4 months ago, it was pretty dead. So what do I do to make sure that I'm keeping moving forward? Having coaches, people that you can rely on to help you think big picture, work on the long-term stuff, and break that down into chewable steps, especially if it's something you've never done before. And then not only that, but putting it on the calendar. Calendar is the biggest thing for most of us. With that, you mentioned I do a lot of networking. That is tremendous for me in both my personal development and personal endeavors. Whether it's I'm looking to buy a house, or I need information on these tax strategies. I've got a network of people that I can pick their brains, and each person is maybe a little bit more of a specialist in a certain area. Having a bunch of different networking on my calendar to strengthen existing relationships and expand that network with new relationships is amazing for me. That's my biggest thing during the off season, because then I have something to get up out of bed at 8:00 on a Tuesday when there's no hail.
Right.
Hey, cool. I'm going to drive across town to go visit some new people and make some friends.
Absolutely. What's been your biggest inspiration?
I'd say Jordan Love, but I don't want to get Andrew too excited. I think there's a lot of people that inspire me for different reasons, right? And it's hard to break down to anyone. And then, you could say Jesus, you could say my parents, and just, all the cliche stuff. But I think just paying attention to people, everybody's got something to offer, especially if we were to go back to the networking thing, right? You meet so many people, and there's a lot of focus on finding synergy partners, people that can help, right? So if you're in real estate, somebody in title and mortgage, obviously those people are a great fit to network with each other. But maybe I know somebody who cleans houses. On paper, it might not seem that person has a lot to offer, but that person might be my greatest source of referrals.
Right.
And you might learn something from them. Maybe they're doing that now, but you don't know what they did before. So spending time with people and learning and growing and developing the network, and that's a big circle. Getting back to your answer is I am constantly inspired by people that you wouldn't even expect. It's almost sometimes it's like you sit down with someone, you have no idea or no expectation of really getting much out of it. It's just kind of like, hey, let's connect for the sake of connecting and growing our network. And then you're like, oh my gosh, you're actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And you've done all these cool things. So I get that with my clients as well. I have some of the coolest clients, people who do the craziest stuff.
I know.
The guy I fixed a car for a guy who flew something like 18 hours during a Black Hawk Down or something like that. His helicopter got shot, and he's showing me where his helmet got shot and things like that. It's absolutely nuts.
Crazy stories.
Super cool.
I will say I've said this before on the podcast with somebody, with another guest, but I used to hate networking. Like, I thought it was so stupid. I really did. And I was just getting into real estate, which is probably the worst thing for me to say, because you network a lot and connections are always ongoing, but I never wanted to. And then the more I started learning how to network, learning how to really speak and engage in public, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad after all. And then it became more and more plentiful. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is it. I don't know why I ever thought that. So it was very naive, very naive. But yeah, networking is huge. And obviously the Pristine Connections networking group is massive as well. So that's really great. Final-ish question. What's your end goal with your business? Where are you trying to be by the end of this year?
Well, that has yet to be seen. And part of it is contingent upon, how many storms we're looking at. And because I'm intentional about building relationships and building my business in that way and not out, knocking doors through the neighborhoods, it's I'm kind of at the mercy of how things work out. So sometimes that's difficult because it's a little bit out of my control, and you feel like you want to be in control of things, but everything works out the way it's supposed to, Hakuna Matata type of thing. And it could be a huge storm year and I get 0 referrals. It could be a smaller storm year and I get a bunch of referrals. But the main thing is I'm not another thorn in somebody's side. I'm there with a unique solution and a proposition that can actually benefit them and their friends and neighbors.
Yeah. That's really great. And then last little bit, I know we had been talking about nonprofits before, and I've heard you talk about it in your like 30-second pitches and stuff. So tell me about that. What nonprofits are you trying to work with?
The cool thing with what I do is, and with paintless dent repair, because you're not rebuilding the entire exterior of a vehicle, unless it was really big softballs or something like that, right? In most situations, there's a lot more profitability in that. And so when there's money to be made in fixing these cars, I could put together some really cool programs where we can donate proceeds back for each vehicle that's repaired through the program. So if you were a nonprofit and you go to a networking group, you say, hey, I'm trying to raise money for XYZ this week. At a certain point, that can kind of fall on deaf ears, and that sounds bad. But as a nonprofit, your job is to find sources of funding. Right. And so with what I'm building out, it's actually pretty cool because I can build a partnership with somebody and be, in lieu of a bake sale for a school or something like that, we can go in and say, hey, with the school district, anybody who was affected by the storm, we can give them a perspective and advice on what makes the best sense for them. If they don't already have a repair facility that they know and trust, then we can make recommendations for them. And through that, any dollars that are generated, we can donate proceeds back to end-of-school programs, to STEM programs, or just straight to teachers' classroom budgets. Yeah. Right? So, and that's just one example. But and everybody's situation is a little bit different. But even if you're a one-woman show and you're just trying to make a difference in your local community in a niche, you've got a unique sphere of influence. And so in the event of a severe storm in the area, that's an opportunity to become self-funding and say, hey, anybody who does their repairs through this program, we can donate. We're going to raise money back to this charity. So it's still kind of a concept in the making, but I'm really excited about the potential of it because we're in North Texas and we get hammered every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And apparently this season might be worse. I mean, I feel like every year we keep saying it's going to be worse, and then it hasn't been too bad, but we've started off March a little too strong, yes. So it'll be a long season. Coming. I know. So. I know. Every Thursday I watch Roy Ponder. Yeah. That's my weather guy.
Boy, Powell is fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people get in touch with you?
You guys I'm sure we'll put up all my contact information, and at this point in time, I'm finalizing all the final branding and the website launch and everything that I'm very excited about. So once that is up, we'll have that shared around. But people can call and text me on my personal cell anytime.
We'll make sure that gets added too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
we will see you guys next time.
Cool. Appreciate it.